Now, this ruling also voids the Federal Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, which effectively gave the legal sports betting monopoly to the state of Nevada. So what now? What about the bookies? Joining me now from Washington, D.C., video journalist for PJ Media, Nicholas Ballasy. Nick, I joke about the bookies. I think the bookies will always have a place in our society. They'll probably survive this legalization of sports betting. But, you know, when you look at through a constitutional prism, this decision, I think the framers would approve because it now gives the decision back to the states.
Yes, the decision now allows states to decide what's best for them in terms of sports betting. It remains to be seen whether Congress will get involved in this issue because the decision is in the absence of congressional action. So states now can decide what to do on sports betting. But if Congress gets involved with a piece of legislation, that could change the whole situation as it is now, as it stands today.
Not unlike abortion. You know, we have a 1973 ruling. We have no legislation. But again, I think this is the way the framers would want it, and that is allow the states to decide. Now, the spokesman for the 44th president, that would be Barack Obama, apparently just cannot keep his trap shut. He wants to be some sort of spokesman still, I guess, in talking about the 45th president, that would be Donald Trump.
Yes, the former press secretary for President Obama, Josh Earnest, is saying that President Trump actually answers questions, shouted questions from the White House reporters more often than President Obama did. So shouted questions meaning as you know, he gives a statement and you yell out a question, President Trump will actually answer at a higher rate than President Obama. This is according to Obama's former spokesman, which is an interesting piece of news here because you have a former spokesman for President Obama saying there's some more accountability under the Trump administration when it comes to answering questions from the media. Yeah. So that's definitely something you don't hear every day, a former spokesman from a former president saying that about the way the current president is operating from the opposite party.
No, I think Barack Obama had selective hearing, that's for sure. And I think that President Trump likes to engage the press, likes to engage the mainstream media, and so he does hear these things, and he truly wants to give an answer. Now, the chairman of Starbucks is also speaking out right now. I'm calling it a caffeinated attack against the 45th president.
The executive chairman of Starbucks, Howard Schultz, says he's not going to run for public office, president specifically in 2020. But if you listen to his speech at the Atlantic Council's Distinguished Leadership Award ceremony on Thursday, you would think he was getting ready to run for president. Schultz was indirectly attacking President Trump. He was speaking about how the U.S. has to reject nationalism. The U.S. is lacking moral leadership right now. He's also talking about how we should also, in the United States, reject isolationism. So when you listen to a person in the private sector like Howard Schultz, a businessman, talking like that about politics in terms of moral leadership, nationalism, you have to sit there in the audience and wonder, does he have aspirations to get to at least, I don't know, some sort of public office, maybe president in 2020?
Well, maybe have
Battle of the businessman.
Oh, could be. Or he could just stick to coffee. You know, there's nothing wrong with nationalism. It's called pride in country. I think he's completely off base in that. And it's one of the reasons why, by the way, Donald Trump is in the White House right now. Nick, thanks. Coming up next, how the 45th president is doing, and doing a marvelous job, pretty much, of erasing the legacy of the 44th president as the Daily Ledger continues.